May 23, 1934. A quiet country road in Louisiana. Two young lovers, America's most wanted outlaws, about to face a firing squad disguised as law enforcement. 130 bullets. 16 seconds. When the smoke cleared, their bodies were so riddled with holes that the coroner lost count. But here's what still haunts investigators to this day. They never stood a chance. This wasn't a shootout. This wasn't justice. This was an execution. Carefully planned, ruthlessly executed, and celebrated like a carnival. And the story of how Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow went from small-time thieves to public enemies #1 is darker, more violent, and more tragic than any Hollywood movie ever showed you. Because the real Bonnie and Clyde weren't romantic rebels. They were desperate, damaged, and absolutely deadly. And their 2-year crime spree across America left a trail of blood that law enforcement was determined to wash away. With even more blood. January 1930. America is drowning. The Great Depression has turned millions into desperate criminals overnight. Banks are foreclosing on families. Police are underfunded and outgunned. And in the dusty backroads of Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, a new breed of outlaw is being born. Young, reckless, and armed with automatic weapons. Clyde Barrow was 21 years old when he met Bonnie Parker in West Dallas. She was 19, married to a man in prison, working as a waitress, and dreaming of becoming an actress. Clyde was already a petty thief with a prison record and a burning hatred for the Texas penal system, where he'd suffered brutal abuse. They fell in love fast, dangerously fast. Within weeks, Bonnie was smuggling guns into prison for Clyde. Within months, they were on the run together. But Clyde wasn't some smooth-talking romantic outlaw. He was violent, paranoid, and driven by one obsession: never getting captured alive again. He'd spent time in the hellish Eastham prison farm, where guards tortured inmates and worked them to death. Clyde even cut off 2 of his own toes to avoid hard labor. That prison broke something inside him, and when he got out, he swore he'd die before going back. Bonnie believed she was living some kind of twisted love story. Clyde knew they were already dead. They just hadn't been buried yet. By 1932, the Barrow gang was in full swing. Clyde, Bonnie, and a rotating cast of accomplices, Clyde's brother Buck, Buck's wife Blanche, and various young gunmen looking for thrills, were robbing gas stations, small-town banks, and stealing cars across 5 states. But they weren't master criminals. They were sloppy, desperate, and increasingly violent. Early robberies netted them almost nothing, sometimes as little as $5. But the body count was rising. Clyde killed his first lawman in April 1932, a shopkeeper who tried to stop a robbery, then a deputy in Oklahoma, then a marshal in Texas. Each killing made them more famous. Newspapers ate it up. Bonnie and Clyde became folk heroes to struggling Americans who hated banks and cops. The FBI, still a young organization, was watching. Local sheriffs were forming posses, but the gang was always one step ahead, racing across state lines where jurisdiction ended and chaos began. Then came the photos. In 1933, police raided a gang hideout and found something that would make Bonnie and Clyde immortal: a roll of film. On it were photos of Bonnie posing with a cigar in her mouth, foot on a car bumper, holding a shotgun. Clyde grinning with a pistol. The images went viral, 1930s style. Newspapers printed them everywhere. Suddenly Bonnie Parker wasn't just Clyde's girlfriend. She was Suicide Sal, the cigar-smoking gun moll who laughed at death. Except Bonnie never smoked cigars. It was just a joke photo. But the legend was born, and it made them even more dangerous, because now they had an image to live up to, and teenagers across America were starting to idolize them. July 1933, Platte City, Missouri. The Barrow gang is hiding in a tourist cabin when police surround them at dawn. What follows is a bloodbath. Clyde and his brother Buck open fire with automatic rifles. Police return fire with machine guns. When the smoke clears, Buck is shot in the head. Blanche is partially blinded by glass shards, and Bonnie is screaming from third-degree burns after a car battery exploded next to her. But Clyde impossibly drives them all out of the ambush. 5 days later, Buck dies from his wounds. Blanche is captured and sent to prison. Now it's just Bonnie, Clyde, and a young gunman named Henry Methvin. And that's when things get truly brutal. Because Clyde, wounded and desperate, decides the only way to free his imprisoned friends is to break them out. On January 16, 1934, Clyde and Methvin ambush a prison transfer near Eastham, the very prison that had tortured Clyde years before. They free 5 prisoners, but in the chaos, they murder a guard named Major Crowson, a decent man with a family. That killing changed everything. Now it wasn't just local cops chasing them. The FBI, Texas Rangers, and bounty hunters across 6 states were authorized to shoot on sight. If you love dark, real stories from American crime history, the ones that don't get told in movies, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It helps more than you know. And trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. Because now, former Texas Ranger Frank Hamer, the most feared lawman in the Southwest, is coming for them, and he doesn't take prisoners. Frank Hamer was a legend, 6 feet 3 inches of cold-blooded efficiency. He'd killed more than 50 men in the line of duty. He'd survived 17 gunshot wounds, and when the governor of Texas asked him to hunt Bonnie and Clyde, he said yes on one condition: total freedom to operate however he wanted. No rules, no supervision, just results. Hamer spent 3 months studying the gang. He tracked their movements, interviewed their families, mapped their hideouts. He realized Bonnie and Clyde weren't mastermind criminals. They were creatures of habit. They always stayed near family. They always traveled the same back roads. And they trusted the wrong people. One of those people was Henry Methvin's father, Ivan. The authorities made him a deal. Help us kill Bonnie and Clyde, and your son might avoid the electric chair. Ivan agreed. On May 23, 1934, Ivan Methvin parked his truck on a rural road near Sales, Louisiana, with the hood up, a prearranged signal that Bonnie and Clyde would stop to help. Hidden in the trees were 6 lawmen, Frank Hamer and 5 others, all armed with Browning automatic rifles, weapons that could fire 20 rounds in 2 seconds. They'd been waiting since midnight. At 9 in the morning, a stolen Ford V8 came around the bend. Clyde was driving. Bonnie was eating a sandwich in the passenger seat. When Clyde saw Methvin's truck, he slowed down. That's when Hamer stepped into the road and opened fire. The other 5 men joined in. The barrage lasted 16 seconds. 130 bullets tore through the car. 50 hit Bonnie and Clyde's bodies. Clyde was shot in the head before he could touch his weapon. Bonnie died screaming, still clutching her sandwich. When it was over, the lawmen approached the car. Both bodies were unrecognizable, flesh torn, bones shattered, blood pooling on the seats. Clyde's foot was blown off. Bonnie's hair was matted with blood and brain matter. It was the most violent death in American law enforcement history, and within hours it became a public spectacle. News of the ambush spread like wildfire. By noon, hundreds of people swarmed the death site. They took souvenirs, shell casings, broken glass, even pieces of Bonnie's blood-stained dress, which people tore from her corpse before police could intervene. Someone tried to cut off Clyde's ear. Another man attempted to saw off his trigger finger. The crowd was so frenzied that police had to fire warning shots to protect the bodies. When Bonnie and Clyde's bullet-riddled car was put on display, over 20,000 people paid to see it. Their funerals drew even larger crowds. Curious onlookers, mourners, reporters. Bonnie's mother refused to let them be buried together. She blamed Clyde for destroying her daughter's life. And maybe she was right. Because Bonnie Parker wasn't a natural-born killer. She was a small-town girl who fell in love with the wrong man and paid for it with her life. But here's the darkest truth of all. America made them heroes. Even after their deaths, even after all the innocent people they killed, Bonnie and Clyde became legends. Songs were written about them. Movies romanticized them. Their names became synonymous with rebellion and freedom. But there was nothing free about dying in a hail of bullets on a dirt road in Louisiana. There was nothing romantic about a 16-second execution that left 2 young people mutilated beyond recognition. Bonnie and Clyde were products of a broken system, a violent era, and their own terrible choices. And their deaths proved that the American outlaw story always ends the same way: bloody, brutal, and utterly final. If you want more true stories from the darkest chapters of American crime, the ones Hollywood won't tell you, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, city and country? And don't go anywhere. There's another nightmare from America's criminal past waiting for You in the next video.